Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you so much. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Shayma Khalil, and I'm working as Operations Director of the Iraqi and American Reconciliation Project. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Thanks for Anderson Center for hosting our artist talk today and for hosting Today and Tomorrow exhibition. About our organization, the Iraqi and American Reconciliation Project, we are a non-profit organization founded in 2007. We build the bridges of communication, understanding, supports between Iraqis and Americans after decades of sanctions and war. I will say a brief introduction about the artist talk and about the exhibition of Today and Tomorrow as well. Like a two-way mirror, Today, Tomorrow invited Iraqi artists to reflect on personal and collective legacies while providing a window into visions for the future. Last year, we launched a call to Iraqi artists to reflect and envision the future. Over 100 artists responded. Our committee of esteemed Iraqi artists, Rand Abdel-Jabbar, Basil Rawi, and Sajjad Abbas, had the great difficulty and honor of selecting the final pieces that you will view later tonight in the exhibition. Today and Tomorrow reclaims historic narratives, redefines legacies, and imagines possibilities. In our today's artist conversation, we are honored tonight to have one of the artists of Today, Tomorrow, Asmaa al-Issa. About the artist Asmaa al-Issa, Asmaa, born in Baghdad, cultivates an art practice that responds to her lived experiences and interactions with the land, materials, and people around her. Asmaa's practice as an artist and educator focuses on nurturing creativity while building cross-cultural alliances. Asmaa's formal education includes a Master of Fine Arts in Interdisciplinary Studies from Simon Fraser University in Vancouver, Canada. Her artwork has been exhibited across Canada and Spain, Japan, and Qatar. السيدات والسادة الحضور الأعزاء، مساء الخير. يعد الحنين إلى المكان الأول موضوعاً أثيراً وملازماً وشيقاً في الفن والحياة. أسماء العيسى الفنانة الشابة وضيفتنا اليوم أغراها مبكراً جدل الأمكنة، وأغواها سؤال الترحال ومقاومة اندحار الإنسان أمام زوال وذوبان شوارع وبيوت وبساتين ونخيل الذاكرة بين العبث والصراعات وضغط التاريخ العنيف والرياح. بين البصرة والدوحة وكندا تنقلت أسماء العيسى مثل سعف النخيل الذي عبثت بحيويته مدافع الحروب وحرائق الأهواء السياسية المختلفة. إنها تخوض عبر فنها والتقاطاتها مغامرة العودة إلى المكان الأليف، حيث تتشكل السيرة الأولى لوجدانها مع أصداء ما تسمع وتتربى عليه من حكايات وما ترى من صور وهواجس في الدهشة الأولى لطفل البدايات، حيث تلتمع في أعمالها رسائل الانتصار للسلام والحوار. أسماء العيسى مواليد بغداد العراق، تستثمر في تفعيل الطاقات الإبداعية من خلال أعمالها المتعددة الاختصاصات، حيث تدمج تجربتها الحية مع الأرض والمواد والأشخاص من حولها. أسماء حاصلة على درجة الماجستير في الفنون الجميلة في الدراسات متعددة الاختصاصات من جامعة سايمون فريزر في فانكوفر كندا 2017، وبكالوريوس في الفنون الجميلة في الدراسات البصرية من جامعة كالغاري كندا 2013. Thank you. Please welcome with me Asmaa al-Issa. So the first question, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience and tell us a little bit about your general artistic practice before we dive into palm navigation?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks everybody for coming through tonight. And thank you, Shema, again for that beautiful introduction. I, again, get very emotional listening to the way that you're describing the work and talking about the exhibition, especially in particular in the Arabic language, and that's something that's really important for me with my art practice. And so, yeah, just a little bit about myself. I live in Calgary, Alberta right now in Canada. I moved there, I immigrated there with my family in 2001. And I've known that artistic practice has been the thing that I want to do. And I'm very, very grateful to be able to do it as full-time. And especially when I'm able to learn stories and share stories about my family and about our heritage through my art practice, and to be able to share that is a really great honor. And yeah, I think.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for sharing that, Asma. So my second question, I felt like palm navigation took me on a visual artistic journey that spoke directly to my soul, reminding me of the strength and endurance that reside within us, like a human being. Even in the face of conflict and continued challenges. Can you talk about palm navigation in specific and why you wanted this project to be part of Today and Tomorrow exhibition?
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, seeing the call at the time for this exhibition that was, proposed by an Iraqi-led organization to be curated by Iraqi artists, and it was a call for Iraqis all over the world in the diaspora as well as back home. I felt very energized and very excited about the opportunity. And I've never shown work alongside Iraqi artists before, let alone a full exhibition of only Iraqi artists. It's really, really meaningful. So palm navigation, that's in the, it's a bigger project that has different kinds of elements, and what's displayed downstairs, one of them is this floor piece, and then there's also a creative essay with images and photographs. And that I had written maybe 4 years ago now, and I never published it. And so when I read the call for this exhibition, it was
This is the right place.
This is exactly the right place.
Yeah.
And I'm so excited and happy that that's where it lives on the online exhibition, and that it can be part of the exhibition here at the Anderson Center. And yeah, I think in terms of it being kind of the first projects where I was really thinking about what the symbols of the palm tree, the date palm specifically, and the rivers, the Tigris and the Euphrates, Dijla wal Furat, these as symbols of the culture, symbols that are very, very powerful for us. We recognize them immediately as symbols that stand in for the culture. And so this project was the first kind of exploration of that, and how I can maybe just approach those symbols and really try to understand what they mean.
Great, thank you. And also, as you mentioned, palm tree is representing Iraq or Iraqi people, because it's spread all over Iraq spaces, and it's represent a big part of all Iraqi people, because it's part of the legacy of Iraqi lands from ancient time.
Exactly.
Not now. So
exactly, yeah, and thinking about how, the palm tree being a symbol like since like Mesopotamian times, and even just the fact that the historically it's the Fertile Crescent, the fertile lands that can actually support the dates, the date palms, because they need fresh water. And at one point, Iraq used to be the biggest exporter of dates, up until the late 70s, and that's not the case anymore. And I'm very curious about this symbol being so strong, yet it's made that things have changed so drastically that, I don't know, I have these questions of like, do these symbols mean the same thing anymore? And if not, how can we like renew that meaning, and just kind of renew these, what kinds of symbols that we use culturally. So that's part of what the project kind of starts to explore.
Thank you, that means a lot. Yeah, I think the third question is related to the second one, like in palm navigation, there is a deep exploration of navigation. And we see references to geography and maps throughout the project. So you grapple with the challenge of preserving connection to place, streets, homes, and palm trees. So which hold a special connection, I would say, or special spaces in our memories. Sorry, can you tell us more about how we will see that in your work later tonight?
Yeah, so just to kind of talk a little bit about the images, and when you mentioned the kind of exploration of maps and geography and topography, these are these examples of textile works, and the patterns that you see on them are the Tigris and the Euphrates and Shatt al-Arab, and wherever they end, they start again. So it's this fractal, this sort of like river fractal of that infinitely repeats. And I just love that image so much. It gives me so much energy to think about. And then in all of these works, I see these different types of fabrics that I've embroidered into as these different representations of land, and how each one can kind of represent the land differently, or different properties that land can have, even if it's on a poetic level. So for example, the piece on the right here, it's not in the exhibition, but it is part of the Palm Navigation series. I've used a netting, it's basically like a window screen material, and so it's very durable, and it's porous, so it lets some things in, it lets air flow through it, but not everything. So even the title is munkhal, which is like a sieve. And so I imagine then what are those sort of, what things are brought up when we talk about land in that sense, right? As being porous, as absorbing and letting some things kind of, absorbing some things, but then also filtering some things out. And these are other examples of maps that I've referred to in my work. And some of them are contemporary, and some of them are that I've found in archives. So the one on the left is found in the British archives. And they're both images of different places in Basra, in southern Iraq. Yeah, I feel like I left, even though I was born in Baghdad, I left at a really, really young age. And my family and I have not gone back since. And I am very curious about the place, and I feel like I remember this moment of flying to the Gulf and seeing on the map that I was flying over Iraq. And then I was just like staring so hard outside the window and the different patterns of the lights and things like that on the ground. And it was a very special moment of feeling like this is the closest I've gotten to kind of fly above it. And I think all of these different kinds of themes of like navigating and looking above and following maps and following these lines have just been like a repeated experience. And just like a continuing interest that I have of just like going on Google Maps and looking at different places and following the roads and following things and like trying to get my father to point out like where our house used to be or what kind, like he points out to the school that he went to, different things like that. And so I think I'm interested in these, visiting these places through memories and through imagination. There's the real sort of Google Maps that's sort of like representation of what's there now. And then there are these other, these historic maps that are old now and don't really apply anymore. And then there are other sort of personal maps that I keep kind of referencing that are in relation to the body, and thinking about what sort of, what things have been enfolded into our bodies. And so I think about the palm lines. And so again, the title, Palm Navigation, I chose it, well, purposely first in thinking about the palm trees, sort of like the journeys of the palm trees from place to place and kind of originating in some places, now being replanted in other places around the world, in places that they're not indigenous to. So I was thinking about the sort of like the journey of the palm tree and what navigating that looks like. But then I realized really embarrassingly late the pun in the English language of the palm of the hand. And the palm lines have been a motif in my artwork for quite a while, like before I even started looking at palm trees in my art practice. And so to think about these lines as maps as well that have been enfolded into our bodies, and how, you know, how we learn from our past, we learn from our ancestry to be, I mean, I wonder, you know, that it's a very poetic kind of thought to think about how do we, if we are able to read this as a map, and what navigating that looks like, and how there is maybe like guidance there from our ancestry. So these are the kinds of things that are coming up for me in these sort of abstract maps, but then they're correlated with real maps as well. I'm looking for an image, but now I can't find it. That's okay.
Yeah, thanks. This is, I think, so deep. And as you mentioned, even though you left Iraq in very young age, but your project reflects how real palm trees farms in Iraq looks like, and even the burlap piece, like when you embroidered the Dijla wal Furat, the two rivers, and it really reflects, like, I'm thinking of like artist living in Iraq and reflecting what he's thinking. So this is proof that how your roots or your family saying things for you so deep and so important for them. So now you are reflecting like work so real, like someone living in Iraq. So this is, I think, very interesting and moving.
Yeah, I mean, it's, I guess I'm like thinking about that same kind of energy flowing through, right?
Yes.
And continues to flow through the generations, even if distant from, and how is that flowing happening through storytelling, through practicing of traditions, these kinds of things, and then through making of these artworks, I guess.
Yeah, and as I see your project and as you talked more with us like via Zoom meetings about the palm navigation, like I think every person received the art in his way and interpreted in his way. So I think you are representing the strength as the palm tree, because the palm tree, we considered this tree as a very strong tree, because it's like growing up in a very unique environment or atmosphere in hot places, and gives very flavored fruits, which is the dates. So even like the environment very hard, it gives you very nice things. So I think this is one of the great features of the palm tree. And we as Iraqi describe the palm tree, النخل, as a generous tree, الشجرة الكريمة. So
yeah, and that it provides fruit for eating. It provides the fronds for creating like baskets and things like that, like housewares, and then or like flooring or roofing, and yeah, there's all kinds of different uses for the different parts of it.
All the materials. Okay, and my fourth question about Susa. So could you share more about the concept of Susa as a fictional narrative within the project? What role does it play in imagining the revival of lands and renewal the symbols and traditions?
Yeah, lovely. Thank you. So Susa actually is represented in this map here. And it's this plot of land right there. And it's also, sorry, excuse me while I find, there it is. And then the one image that I have of it is the one on the top left there, of some kids in the boat. And that's actually my father and his siblings and some friends. And they are at Susa, and so it's a plot of land. It was a date orchard, and it belonged to my father's family. And it's a place that I don't necessarily foresee myself going physically, yet it holds a really strong, I feel a really strong connection to it. And I feel like I don't really need to visit it to kind of keep up that strong relationship to it, or like that strong connection. I've kind of accepted the possibility that I might not go, but I think that's okay. And so it kind of occupies this imaginary place where I can imagine it as, I mean, I don't really know, I can have a sense of like how big the plot is. I have, the size of it, all those things. And in the text actually downstairs, there's all these kind of descriptions about it, about how far away it is from the place that I live and the other places that I've lived, and how big it is on the map, and then how big my father says it is, and what kinds of trees used to grow there or be planted there. And there's all this kind of information that I have, but it's all abstract information. And I think it kind of gives me the opportunity to imagine freely, and really imagine it as a site for the regeneration of palm trees. And, I think about, imagine the day where I, or, like my brother's kids or something like that, or like down the generations, someone will be able to go back and actually replant palm trees there and the different varieties. It also comes up in the video game project, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for that question. I think again, the text-based work downstairs was really an opportunity to explore this plot of land that exists in reality, but really is not really very real for me. But it is. Yeah.
And somewhere.
And I'm navigating now.
And also you the word navigation, like in Arabic, it means not only like searching for something, but it means like moving from place to place, tanaqqul. And what I see, like my perspective is like it's describing the theme of the project, which is how palm tree farms all over the riverbanks in Iraq. And it's like navigation is very suits this project very well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think especially the word either navigation or tanaqqul has an active aspect to it, and that there's like a process implied. And I think that's really important to me because again, like I think about, we're talking about movement and flowing and like ideas flowing and sort of like going back and forth and trying to find something but not really sure what we're looking for, but the instincts are guiding and the ancestors are guiding. And so I think that sort of active implication is important for the work. Yeah.
Okay. And is it like when you're looking for the maps, is it like part of this project, or this is like a usual action you like to do within your other like projects?
Yeah, I mean, all the projects really right now are intertwined. And they just sort of have been like feeding off of one another and building on each other. But the act of just like following maps is something that I like to do. I mean, we've been talking about that just like driving around Minneapolis and arriving here, been talking a lot about maps and mapping and my obsession of just following maps. And I'm very grateful that I have that skill. I think I get it from my father, to be able to read maps well and actually just have like a genuine interest in them. And yeah, it's also given me an opportunity to try and find things that are unexpected. And so in Google Maps, for example, Iraq doesn't have Google Street View, which a lot of places in the world usually do, where you can actually just like go on any street and just basically walk down the street and see everything. So that's not an option, but what there is on Google Maps in Iraq is there's these users basically upload their own images, and people upload like 360-degree photographs, and that has been a beautiful kind of like surprise of a discovery that is just like hours on Google Maps of clicking on these different images that people have uploaded. And you mentioned actually something very funny about like if you try and go find some of those places, you probably would not be able to. But they're just like very obscure or like very sort of ordinary scenes of just people sitting at tables in front of a house or something like that. But I guess getting these glimpses somehow provides some kind of closeness for me to this place that I'm trying to understand.
Yeah. Good to know that. I think this is also a very nice thing to know about how you explore or how you navigate your own work, like your art practice.
Thank you.
Okay, and now the question is, your work shows up in so many different mediums. In what ways do various forms of artistic expression, such as drawings, embroidered textiles, creative writing, photographs, and video game, contribute to the narrative of palm navigation, to this project in specific, and how do they interact to convey the project's message?
Yeah, I mean, that's part of the goal. I mean, I always think about palm navigation as being like an umbrella that has all these different sort of artworks underneath that are part of it and stem from it. And maybe actually I need to think of a different word than umbrella, because I see these kind of sprouting from it. So it's maybe something a little bit different, like a garden or something. But yeah, and I think necessarily it needs these different, it just has shown that it needs to be explored in these different materials. You know, every different material allows for a different kind of thought to be inspired, kind of similar to how I was talking earlier about the different sort of fabrics or materials to be embroidered into. Each one will have a different connotation and and will inspire different kind of ideas. And I think in that same way of pushing the work to you know, in writing, it allowed for all these different details to be explored, but then also I had the opportunity to have it translated into Arabic, and that was something that was very important for me. Even though I speak fluent Iraqi specifically, Iraqi Arabic, I'm not able to write like proper Arabic just because I don't have that education, and so and I left quite young. But to have this piece of writing that I wrote be translated into Arabic and then read that over again was very emotional for me and very significant, to kind of read these words that I meant.
Very expressive in Arabic.
Yeah, to be able to read them in the Arabic language, which is technically my first language that I like relate to very closely. And so that's another opportunity revealed by through language. And then, for example, as video games, they can be interactive, and so there's something that's they're disseminated differently, they're interacted with differently. They just have like a different kind of life, and then they, I guess, open up something, different kinds of opportunities. And I think this project, I don't think about projects as sort of, or I guess it hasn't really happened where the projects live independently from one another. They're all kind of
related.
Yeah.
Okay. And can you talk about the video game that you are
that I keep mentioning? I can.
And is it like you started this project before the palm navigation or after working on palm navigation? You are mentioning also here the palm tree.
Yeah, of course. So this project would have been in that garden of palm navigation, right? So this would have sprouted from the same kinds of ideas, exactly. And so basically, the video game that I'm developing with a friend and collaborator, Patrick Blencarn, is the concept is there's a Japanese game, if anybody knows it, that's called a Tamagotchi. And they're like small little toys that they used to make. They actually first, I think, were released in 1997, which was notable for me because that's when we left Iraq. So I never had one growing up. But basically, it's a little game that gives you a creature that has needs throughout the day. You have to feed it, and the little thing will beep every time that it needs something, and you have to try and figure out what it needs. So you have to feed it, you have to like clean up after it, you have to discipline it, and play with it. So there's these different kinds of options, and then it affects how it grows up and whatever. Anyways, and so the idea to transfer that same kind of concept, but to a palm tree, so Tamagotchi is now in progress, and so it takes, it's a palm tree that basically needs to be kept alive by the player.
Taking care of it.
And you have to take care of it, exactly. And so I visited farmers and did extensive research about all the processes that are part of taking care of palm trees. So things like pruning and when they need pruning, and being treated for pests and given fertilizer, things like that, and then learning the sort of traditional way to climb the trees to be able to, to fertilize them, and then when it comes time to collect the dates. And so this game kind of offers this opportunity to be active in taking care of palm trees, and it also offers these very practical knowledge of the steps that it takes to take care of a palm tree, but then also the terminology in Arabic, so that the game will be in both languages, in Arabic and in English. And so the terminology of the different varieties of dates, different processes, these kinds of things, and also the traditional kind of practices that are associated with it.
Yeah, I think this game, sort of educational game for me.
A little bit,
what
yeah.
I understand, because you mentioned the name of the different kind of dates or palm trees in Iraq, and it has many names.
There are hundreds of different varieties traditionally.
And I think this part is only growing up in Basra.
Yeah, these are just a few that are native to Basra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also the process, how you mentioned, how taking care of the palm tree. So it's for me, it's an educational game, not only for having fun.
Yes, well, I hope it'll be fun. But also the time frames, right? So we're building it in a way where the way that the seasons pass and the sort of different stages of the dates growing and those kinds of things all have very specific names, and so to be able to kind of collect all that knowledge and be able to share it is a huge part of the game. And I think that this project is one of those things where it's the first step toward regeneration and toward imagining regeneration. And so part of the game, the concept is that when you're done playing with the game, you have the option to donate your tree to the Infinity Grove, which in my mind, again, relates back to Asusa, that's where it's kind of going, and then there will be this sort of database of all these palm trees that have been raised by different people around the world. So that's in progress. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for sharing all this information about the project. And I think now the time to open the space for our audience. If you have any question for Asmaa about the palm navigation,
I would love that. Yeah.
Stephanie?
So I totally had a Tamagotchi in the 90s. Is Palmagotchi live? Can I go play this on the internet?
It's not live yet.
Okay.
It's in progress, but I'll keep you posted.
Sounds great.
Yes. Yeah.
So I saw that phrase, land of many rivers, a couple of times. Is that something that's historical, or is that something that you had just created as part of the work? In other words, is there a historical connotation to that?
You mean the burlap piece?
No, I mean
or
just the phrase, the word.
Here on the project.
I saw it a couple different places.
No, I think that was just a title, and again, and I think it's an imagine as opposed to historical. It's kind of actually thinking the other direction, and so part of that fractal river system that I was imagining is really thinking about, the power in imagining these rivers that extend infinitely, and they bring fertility and fertile soil and life everywhere that they go. And so, again, with these sort of different materials being to stand in for different ways of thinking about land. Again, just thinking about that sort of poetic opportunity of what it could inspire to kind of think about these lands having these sort of like infinite rivers flow through them, which, yeah, I think fills me with energy to be thinking in those terms. Yeah, and then it motivates to kind of be thinking about regeneration and how to regenerate these lands. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for this question. Anyone else?
In the slide you had the embroidery,
Mm.
I think one of them you called the sieve.
Mm-hmm.
If I on my right, is that right? Are they both the same?
These two?
Yeah.
No, so this one,
Can you talk about the one on the left a little bit?
yeah, so this one, the pattern that's on it is basically an abstracted grid of palm trees. They sort of represent, date palms are usually, orchards are usually planted in grids. And so these different representations that are, again, this sort of like aerial view, but very abstracted in what it kind of could look like. And there's also some beading, actually, which I don't think is visible in this image, but there's beading on that one as well of the Tigris and the Euphrates. But sorry, you said you're right. So do you mean the white piece or the dark or the black one?
No, I think I meant the one that you were talking about.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, and then actually someone that saw the piece mentioned something about how historically Basra used to be known as like the Black Land.
Because the oil?
Because of, from an aerial point of view, the palm trees were so dense that it looked black. And so there was this, which I didn't really have that reference, right, until someone kind of like brought that to my attention. And I think it translates here again of like using this sort of dark material, this grid to kind of represent the land.
And then I have one other question, if that's okay.
Please.
Yeah.
On the Tamagotchi, I think, one of the ways that people thought about it a lot was that, you took care of it and you learned to nurture, but also it died, right? And so, the palm trees die in your Tamagotchi, or, can you talk a little bit about death and what happens in Tamagotchi?
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. There is that's still kind of, it's something that we've been like really thinking about, because again, this is an artwork that's a collaboration. And the concept of having a character die or something like that in a game is, needs like extensive kind of thoughts and implications and things like that, just in terms of like gameplay, but also conceptually. And I do think that it is built into the game because it is about the sort of cycles and the fact that it needs to be nurtured, that if you don't take care of it, that there is, that the palm tree dies. And there's also these other kind of concepts that we want to explore of like things that are out of our control, like a drought, or different kinds of things like that are affecting the palm trees now, of like the lack of fresh water, and like increased salinity of the water, things like that, if you, even though you're taking care of this palm tree and doing all the things that it needs, there are these external factors that actually affect if you're able to. And so these are all things that we're like very curious about, and how to translate into the game is something that we're working through. But thanks for bringing that up, because I do think it's like it's a really big part of the game. Yeah.
Thank you. And I think at the end, I would like to thank Asma for her presence today and be part of this artist talk and talking about her projects, Palm Navigation, as part of Today and Tomorrow exhibition. And again, thank you to Anderson Center for hosting our artist talk today and for hosting Today and Tomorrow exhibition. I think it's a great place for us as Iraqi and American Reconciliation Project to present this great work, which is collecting all the great work of Iraqi artists in Iraq and in different places around the world, like Sweden, USA, Canada, and other places. And we are very grateful for their participation in this project. And at the end, I would like to thank our funders. This engagement is supported by the Art Midwest Fund, a program of Arts Midwest that is supported by the Minnesota State Art Boards. And at the end, I would like to thank all the audience for your time being here. We appreciate that, and I invite you all to the opening reception and explore the great work of the artists who participated in this exhibition. And also, we have brought Iraqi tea and kleche, which is Iraqi special dessert, and also asmaa, cooked dolma, which is a special meal for Iraqi people, and we'll present it now. So
I made it with help.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shema.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. That's all. Thanks very much.